You got into the safety business because you wanted to protect people, but somewhere along the way, the job started controlling your time, your schedule, your priorities, even your income potential. What if the expertise you've built over the years in the field can give you something more? More freedom, more control, more ownership of your future. I'm Sheldon Primus, the author of 7 Steps to Starting a Profitable Safety Consulting Business and the host of the Safety Consultant Podcast, with more than 350 episodes helping safety professionals become consultants and grow their career. Consulting changed my life. In fact, I'm a full-time RVer, and one consulting contract paid for my home I live in today. Now, I help safety professionals build their own consulting practice through bi-weekly coaching calls, accountability, and personal guidance. But this program isn't for everyone. Start with the Consultant Readiness Audit at sheldon.coach.
What if everything we thought we knew about safety was just interference? From the host of the Rated R Safety Show and the founder of Safety FM comes the complete Signal Transmission Trilogy, now available in one powerful edition. Safety, in my opinion, the book that started the conversation. Safety Mutation, where the boundaries of culture, systems, and belief begin to break. And now, Safety Transmission, the final piece of the signal. For the first time, all 3 books are together in one volume. The Signal Transmission Trilogy, Complete Edition. This isn't just about compliance. It's about consciousness. It's about decoding the way we think, lead, and live, inside and outside the system. Whether you've been following the signal since the beginning or you're just now tuning in, this is the version to own. Search Signal Trilogy on Amazon or visit safetyfm.com to get your copy now.
This is Andy.
And this is Matt.
And you're listening to
The Hop Podcast with no name.
What a dumb name.
It's so stupid. All right. Nope. Let's begin.
I was going to count us in.
What?
Like, and what? And 2. And
I'm not singing this episode. I'm not going to say that I will never sing. It's just definitely not going to be on this episode.
All right. Fair enough.
I'll save the people. Listen, it's hard enough right now out there. So I think we're good.
All right. What are we talking about? What episode is it?
It's episode 27.
All right.
Obviously.
Sorry.
Because everyone's keeping track. I mean, it does say it on the episode listing, so I guess everyone is keeping track. But we're talking about how much extra work this hop stuff creates. And it is unbearable. No, it is the perfect amount. We're going to talk about that today, particularly around operational learning.
Yes.
I think that's going to be our focus. So
Yeah.
to stretch that out, operational learning or learning teams creates too much extra work.
Yeah. So this is that
would be our pushback that we might be hearing from a leadership team.
Or for ourselves.
Or
for anyone involved
doing
in it.
operational
Absolutely.
learning. So hopefully we can just talk a little bit about that today.
Yeah. Because we do hear that a lot.
A lot.
And when people say it, you can see sort of the sadness in their eyes, right? Like we're tired. Like people are tired, right? We're just like in organizations we're doing
in
a lot.
General,
like in general.
In general, yeah. But it's almost like I actually would equate it to we brought them a wonderful new puppy.
Is that operational learning?
Yeah, and they're like, oh, this is a different way to do this. And they're like, yeah, but you only get 30 minutes with this guy or this girl once a week max, and then we're going to take him back. And it's like they see how good it could be, but they feel like they can't get enough done.
Yeah. Oh, I was just thinking that the puppy was way too much work, because that's what I was picturing, because also puppies are way too much work.
No, puppies are the perfect amount of work. What are you talking about?
I said to the biggest dog lover I've ever met in my life.
You are not going to win this one. Not even close.
But it is. There's a lot of, I mean, almost anywhere we go, anyone we talk to, and if I go back to my own memories and my own organization of doing lots of learning teams, lots of operational learning, it feels overwhelming.
And when we talk to people who are trying it or have been doing it, there is that moment, and I bring up the puppy because it's like, I see it. I see the value this brings.
Yeah.
I see how great it is.
But I'm running in molasses.
But wow. Wow, I just feel like I can't get anything actually done. It's just creating so much extra work after a learning team, and I just feel a little bit stuck.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about the extra work, maybe in just a couple different categories, and see some of the ones that we hear most often and have experienced most often. And I think maybe the first one that we hear a lot, because people ask us all the time, like, what is the output of a learning team? And they're not asking about the output of like, what are we trying to accomplish? Most of the time people are asking about like, what forms do we have to fill out? Like,
which I always feel so terrible that people are so conditioned to be like, oh, this is new. Okay, well, there's going to be work.
There's going to be like, what does the form look like? And I think we asked that question for a couple different reasons. One, historically, the forms that we filled out have given us an idea of what we're looking for, right? So like, if, for example, we're doing an investigation and we know we have to fill out form X, well, then we generally ask the questions that are on form X because we know we have to fill out that form. So I think in some regards, that's why people ask, is they're like, well, maybe the form will help me understand more about what I'm trying to do here. But then the other part of the puzzle is just we're so conditioned to having to fill out a report afterwards that somebody wants to know kind of what are the requirements, what does that report look like? And depending upon the location we go to, the company that we work with, most organizations that have been doing this for a little bit, like they can pull out a procedure that they have around what a learning team is, the required forms for it, like what the output has to be. And then you talk to the folks that are actually facilitating. And most of the time they say that the hardest part about doing the learning team is actually filling out the paperwork at the end of it. Filling out the paperwork and then feeling like they're defending all of the things that are in the paperwork. So I don't know if that's common for people listening here, but it's common for the folks that we're talking to.
Which, hearing you talk about it, I actually feel guilty. And
as you should.
Just a general feeling, nothing to do with what you said. No, so I wonder if part of it comes from the fact that when we teach this stuff, we always say the best thing you can do is tell the story of what you've learned. Mm-hmm. And then it just translates through some corporate lingo into write a really good report so you can share it with everyone. So maybe it's somewhat it's on us.
Maybe on us a little bit. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's, I guess the hope for just talking through this piece is to give anyone who feels as though they have some amount of agency in changing these types of requirements, give them permission to have agency. Because most of the forms that we have seen that organizations have filled out are derivatives from other organizations, right? That people are best practice sharing. And those derivatives were based on trainings oftentimes with, Bob Edwards or myself or someone else in this space that's teaching learning teams. And none of us that I know intended to dictate what forms or how forms should be filled out, or that there even should be a form filled out, right? And so it starts to feel like this truth of this is the requirement. Like a learning team has this form that you're supposed to fill out.
Like any good process.
Right. And that's just not true. Meaning,
wait, are you saying that there's not a required post-learning team document?
I mean, maybe your organization has created a required post-learning team document, but that's usually going to be one or two people in the organization who probably got it from another one or two people in another organization who took it based on some slides that were presented once, and it was an idea of what might be helpful in telling the story of a learning team. And then we get to a place, and we were just somewhere a couple weeks ago, right? And they were teaching us how difficult their process was in terms of filling out their forms. And they controlled their own process, right? They had written their own forms, they had written their own requirements, and could change it. But somehow, once we get to a place of writing something down as a requirement, it feels really, really, really hard to change. So if you want to break down what to do post operational learning or post learning team, just know that you have a lot of freedom in how you get to the end point. Your end goal after operational learning is to share valuable information with other people that it might be important for them to know. And you can do that in 150 different ways. You don't necessarily have to write down everything that you heard. You know, some organizations use like little videos trying to describe something. And also, you probably don't have to send it to everyone in your entire organization. There's a subset of people that the information would be really helpful. So that's sort of the story of generally like how work is getting done, right? That's that piece of the puzzle of sharing the context of what you've learned with people who can use that information to better inform future decisions, right? That's what that context is for. It's to give people more accurate information so that they can better inform as a leader future decisions that would affect this process or this group of people. So that's part one. And then the other part of the puzzle that you're trying to share with a larger group of people are some of the problem statements that came out, with the hopes of, in sharing the problem statements, you can generate a lot of different ideas on how to address some of them. And if you happen to have really like great ideas that came out of the learning team, right, or the operational learning, like while you were meeting, you can share those ideas so that other people can pilot them as well. Once again, that doesn't have to be part of like a huge report. And if it's really well-defined problem, it doesn't even have to be tied to the context of the work, meaning that you can put a small amount of context in the problem statement itself to define what you're trying to address. Like, for example, hey, it is difficult to cut through, this specific wire type, which you would name what the wire type is, with this specific tool, and you'd name the tool and show a picture of the tool without having a lot of kickback, for example. How you got to that information, like the whole story of an event perhaps that was around it, or like how the work is getting done around it, is less important in that moment than that really well-defined problem. And then you can take that problem and have a lot of other people start to think about ways that we could make it better. So those are your three big buckets of what you're trying to share. The context of the work itself with people who that added information would be helpful to them in the future when they're making decisions, right? So that's usually a local leadership team. That's usually, like, if you're thinking about it at a fixed facility, that's probably a manager or the leader of that site, right? If you're talking about field operations, it could be the field operations leader, because they're going to make decisions that affect this group in the future. Having a better mental model of what is actually happening is incredibly valuable. So that's part one. Part two is really well-defined problems that have enough context in them. You could hand them to anybody. You want to share that with a group of people who would be willing to brainstorm ideas. And that is the learning team or the operational learning folks that you're talking to themselves. But it can also be other people that have had familiarity with working in that space. But that could be a completely different audience than the first context information. And then the third is, when you do have ideas, is offering those ideas to other people that might have a similar problem, right? So that could be maybe a sister location, or it could be a larger group in your organization. Or maybe that's the piece that you can send out to like everyone to say, hey, this is something we're trying. You can also try it and see if it's helpful. How you do any of that, though? There's a fourth thing. What is it, Matt?
Because you just went on a tear.
Yes, stop me.
The fourth thing is that just by sharing what it was like to run this operational learning, you expose leaders to the fact that things aren't as clear, neat, and easy as it seems.
Yeah.
And the more often that we do that, the more often when something doesn't go right, that they're prepared that, hey, it probably wasn't how I imagined to begin with.
Yeah.
That's it. That's what I want to add in.
No, absolutely. So that's the fourth piece, right? The fourth piece of kind of how messy everything actually is, and the story of what it was like to be part of that operational learning, right? So from the individual who is teaching the facilitator, like how they felt about it, and, you know, whether or not they were comfortable having that conversation, right? That's an important piece. And that's actually the piece that can do a lot in terms of cultural transformation for an organization, is sharing that, yes, this felt more productive than the way that we have tried to address problems in the past. The ways that you choose to communicate any of that, though, I would just highly encourage, if it is within your ability, your agency to do it, is to experiment with different ones. And not to get so rigid in the thought process that we have to have a specific set of forms filled out for each of these pieces of the puzzle. Because if the barrier to doing this, if the hardest part is the administrative burden on the back end, that's probably not where we want to spend a lot of our energy.
Well, it's going to make it so we don't want to spend any of our energy doing learning teams.
Right.
Because I don't want to have to worry about what I have to do after.
Correct. Yeah. And that's part of this big puzzle that we're trying to
If I can't
fix
have the
anyway.
puppy all the time, I just don't want the
want
puppy.
to do it.
That's what it's going to
This
be.
analogy is not working in my head, because in my head, the puppy itself is the amount of work, and I'm really sorry. The look that Matt's giving me right now, it's almost as if I kicked this metaphorical puppy.
I need you to leave.
So experiment, and know that oftentimes the written requirements, maybe the reason why I feel some amount of responsibility to talk to this is that I feel in some ways responsible for the written requirements that some of these organizations have.
I'll just stop you right there. You are somewhat responsible for these written responsibilities.
And a lot of people feel trapped in them. So I'm hoping this makes people feel maybe a little bit less like they can't change it, because
So
I give permission.
Let's just speak super clearly. I
Yes.
want you to be very blunt.
Yes.
And tell me where I'm wrong.
Okay, I'm ready. You're wrong.
Okay. Well, this has been a good episode. There is no requirement for post-learning team paperwork.
There is no external I'm not going to try to argue that your company doesn't have one.
When it was created, there was no, and then you have to do
for
this.
the folks that were in the space of helping create it, there was never, ever a requirement for how you documented it. Correct. Period.
That's it. So anything else that we have to do is created internally based on what we think is best practice. And if we want to know how that's working, go and ask people who are running learn teams and have to fill it out.
Yeah.
That's it. They're probably going to tell you that it's too much.
Or maybe it's perfect. And then tell all the rest of us what you're doing.
Then immediately email us. Immediately. Please. And tell us what it is. But I mean, that's as simple as we can make it.
Correct. Yeah.
But there's way more to it. We recognize that
Absolutely.
not everyone has the agency to say, I'm not doing this paperwork, or
Right.
it's
Or perhaps they're using a learning team and the output of it to fulfill other requirements from other agencies, right? Corporate requirements, or also like external compliance requirements, right? I'm sure that there's many, many strings that are attached to how organizations got to where they are. Just know that one of those strings wasn't from us.
will not take any responsibility for it.
meaning as people were trying to define what a learning team was and teach it from organization to organization, there was never an intent to mandate a specific type of form that was filled out. And anything that's out there that feels like it's a requirement probably evolved from a couple companies trying something out and then sharing it with a bunch of other companies. And now it feels very much required, period.
Which something we do in every training that we have is we say, if you don't agree, push back. And so if you feel like we're off here, tell us.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's an email. I think we say our website at the end of every, I mean, I do the editing. I know it's at the end of every episode. I just don't actually listen to that part every time I edit, which is, if there's something wrong there, I have no idea. Also email me about that, please. But yeah, let us know. I mean, we hope we're not oversimplifying, but it does come up very often.
Okay. So that's piece one. Piece one of, hey, this is creating a lot of work, is unfortunately sort of our own internal bureaucratic administrative work that we've created ourselves. And then piece two, we hear a lot of like, hey, there's sort of like, there's really big problems that come up, and we often don't have the ability to make the change is required, meaning it's going to take us a long time. It's going to take us years, or the amount of resourcing that we would need to make this change across the board is like astronomical. And so we feel stuck, meaning the people doing the facilitation, they feel stuck because they heard the problem. They don't disagree that it's a problem. And actually the solution that people are suggesting is a pretty good solution. And yet it's not happening. Right. And so
these would be problems that fall outside of the sphere of control, outside the sphere of influence, and into just a sphere of concern. And they're probably
right. Or on the
orbiting on the very
right.
far out of that.
Or maybe on the very, very edge of influence. Like you've influenced enough that, people are like, yes, I agree that it's a problem. But then the time scale for changing things feels large, right? Or feels unmanageable or feels unproductive.
It's like one of the problems is we want to change these stop signs to yield signs. Like, okay, we could try that out. The other one is we need to totally replace all of our maintenance cards.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And those are two very important problem statements that come out of the story I've heard 1,000 times.
Yes.
But they're just different. They're different on the scale of what it would take to try it.
Yeah. And so when we ask a lot of questions around some of these sort of bigger scale changes that people want to make, there does seem to be a bit of a pattern, which is just what we want to talk about here. Obviously, this is not all situations, but oftentimes, like, we'll identify a problem, and then where it gets stuck is that we scale it to the entire organization, and then it feels too manageable to do anything about. And one example that Bob Edwards taught me from one of the learning teams that he ran, he was working with a group that was doing sort of work offshore, and they were erecting scaffolding, and some of the pieces that you use to connect the scaffolding, they were corroding because you're subject to offshore conditions, right? So the salt of the wind.
Those aren't. I'm not in safety or energy. Those aren't good.
Well, I mean, I guess it depends. If you really like salty environments and you like things not to run, mechanical things not to run the way you want them to, then they're perfect conditions, right? So these connectors were basically failing over time. And so pieces of the scaffolding itself would collapse or fail. And the team identified others that seem much more resistant to that type of environment. And it felt like on the surface, this was going to be a pretty simple change to make. But then what happened is that information seemed so important that, folks higher up in the organization heard about it, didn't disagree, but then they started to scale what that change would look like for all of their offshore work. And that's when it started to feel enormous. And everything sort of stopped. It's almost like we got paralyzed by the scale of the change that needs to happen. And so part of a way...
But that means it's probably less of a problem then, right?
I wish, right? Right. Because, so it's funny how we get ourselves into this logic space of like, once we start to scale that it needs to be changed, like it becomes almost feeling like unmanageably large. And a really big piece of the puzzle that would be helpful for us to continuously do is the recognition that anytime we want to make any change, we can start off small. Like it and probably should in almost, I'm going to not say all cases, but in most cases, we should start off small, because realistically, when we define a problem, right, we're defining it with whatever available information we have, which if we're bringing folks close to the work together and we have other information as well, that's usually a fairly good problem statement that we've defined, which is great. So we've defined a problem. And then everything that we do to try to address that problem, we do want to be able to look in the mirror and remind ourselves that it's a guess that it's going to help. And like a guess in the best of ways, meaning this is the way we want to make change in a scientific way, right? We want to be thinking about things from the scientific method. We've made a hypothesis, right, as to what we think is going to help. And then we want to make sure it does help before we make wide scale change. And in doing that, we actually give ourselves a lot more confidence that the change is worth it, right? So even if we know that the problem is there and we agree that the problem is there, sometimes we get stuck because of the scale of the change, and we're not super confident that whatever money we're going to put into this, the resource, and we're going to get the benefit, right? We're not confident yet because it feels too big and it feels like maybe it's going to work, maybe it's not going to work. We don't have to just guess or just like wait for funding to come 5 years from now to make the change for everyone. We can start off with running a very controlled and well thought out mini experiment in which we're doing it in a way that people are going to fail safely, right? We're not willy-nilly changing variables and being like, well, now try it with no scaffolding, right? Now try it with, wire tying things up instead of, no, we're taking something that is a really, really well-educated guess and we're trying it. And we're trying it to make sure that it's helpful. And we're trying it to make sure that we have enough data to then prove to ourselves that a larger scale change makes sense. And if we don't have the ability to do that ourselves, then we look outside of the organization for people who have done it, right? Let's look for folks that use this different type of scaffolding and let's get some amount of contextual information from them that, yeah, over the course of 5 or 6 years, it has held up and we haven't had issues. More information is helpful to get us unstuck, right? In many cases, right, that is sort of the antidote to this fear of making a big scale change is to have a little pilot that you can hold on to and say, look, it did help over here. And it also gives us some confidence that we can make change and we feel less stuck because we've done something. We've changed something.
It's almost, I don't want to say ridiculous. No, I'll say it. To hear about scaffolding issues on one offshore site and then just extrapolate it out without understanding if it's a problem anywhere else. You don't know. You have no idea. And you're just making a guess.
Absolutely. Right. There could be, so the assumption is that it's just the offshore conditions that have done it. But then if you dig in and you look at places otherwise, well, maybe it was the offshore conditions in this specific place, where they were stored, how they were being stored, right? Whether they were exposed to, sitting water for long periods of time, right? There's like, we extrapolate out problems, we extrapolate out solutions, and it's in that extrapolation that they become overwhelming. And we can help ourselves a little bit by just piloting things, right? Just piloting things and then learning from it and asking more questions of other places to see, is this truly the same problem that we're seeing everywhere? Or have we, as you suggested, extrapolated even the problem out farther than it needs to be because we don't have enough information? So we're making a pretty big guess.
But that's the big part. We don't have enough
We don't have enough information, right?
That's why I got to keep sharing learning teams so people will realize when they hear it, they don't have all the information.
Yeah.
All right. We have a third one we're not going to cover.
No, we're not going to cover right now.
But long story short, let people keep the puppy. Don't take it away from them by creating too much extra work that they don't get to spend time with the puppy. Learning teams are great. They're helpful. Don't make it too much of a burden if you don't have to.
Right. We have more agency than we think. That's probably that's like the takeaway I'd love us to feel.
Why couldn't we just end with a conversation about a puppy?
I'm sorry.
Why'd I have to go back to agency? You do have more agency than you think. All right, that's it. Thank you all for listening, and we'll chat soon.
Yeah. Well, that's it.
Yep, another one in the books. We did it.
If you want to send us any of your thoughts, actually fling us any of your thoughts, you can do so at the website www.hoppodcast.com.
That's HOPPODCAST.com.
It's still such a stupid name.
It's such a stupid name. We look forward to hearing from you. Thanks for listening.
You got into the safety business because you wanted to protect people, but somewhere along the way, the job started controlling your time, your schedule, your priorities, even your income potential. What if the expertise you've built over the years in the field can give you something more? More freedom, more control, more ownership of your future. I'm Sheldon Primus, the author of 7 Steps to Starting a Profitable Safety Consulting Business and the host of the Safety Consultant Podcast, with more than 350 episodes helping safety professionals become consultants and grow their career. Consulting changed my life. In fact, I'm a full-time RVer, and one consulting contract paid for my home I live in today. Now, I help safety professionals build their own consulting practice through bi-weekly coaching calls, accountability, and personal guidance. But this program isn't for everyone. Start with the Consultant Readiness Audit at sheldon.coach.
What if everything we thought we knew about safety was just interference? From the host of the Rated R Safety Show and the founder of Safety FM comes the complete Signal Transmission Trilogy, now available in one powerful edition. Safety, in my opinion, the book that started the conversation. Safety Mutation, where the boundaries of culture, systems, and belief begin to break. And now, Safety Transmission, the final piece of the signal. For the first time, all three books are together in one volume. The Signal Transmission Trilogy, Complete Edition. This isn't just about compliance. It's about consciousness. It's about decoding the way we think, lead, and live, inside and outside the system. Whether you've been following the signal since the beginning or you're just now tuning in, this is the version to own. Search Signal Trilogy on Amazon or visit safetyfm.com to get your copy now.